I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, I like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George.
Hey everybody, my name is Spin, and today we're going to talk about the pistol round. Specifically, one of the biggest questions I get is, do I buy armor and stay with the classic on the pistol round, or do I grab the ghost? Jump into any pickup game and you'll see a lot of people grabbing the ghost, and you'll see a lot of people staying with the classic and going with that light armor. So which one is better? First, let's dissect each of these weapons and figure out how they're different and why they're different. Hey, I'm not gonna waste your time. I just wanna say, if you like this video, please consider subscribing. All right, so let's break down these weapons one by one. First, we have the classic that has two fire modes. It has a primary fire, which is semi-automatic, and a fire rate of 6.75 rounds per second, which is the same as the ghost. It has an alt fire that's a 3-round burst and has a fire rate of 2.22 rounds per second. The most important thing to note here is the damage. So at 0 to 30 meters, it has a body damage of 26, headshot damage of 78, and leg damage of 22, and that scales off at the 30 to 50 meter range, where it's body 22, head 66, leg 18. If you want to get a better feel for this gun, jump in the practice range, maybe turn on some bot armor to get a feeling for that, and just start tapping heads. Next up, we have the Ghost, which only has one fire mode, semi-automatic, same fire rate as the Classic, has 3 more bullets in the magazine than the Classic, and it does more damage overall. So for the damage at 0 to 30 meters, it's got body 30, head 105, which is quite large, leg 25, and for 30 to 50 meters, it's body 25, head 87, and leg 21. Okay, so which of these is better? Well, the answer is it really depends. But here's my baseline go-to strategy. Go with the Classic plus armor on defense rounds, and go with the Ghost on attack rounds. But if you don't know how to properly play out these rounds, then this tip is kind of useless. So let's get into that. Here's the reason why I say Classic plus armor on defense. The Classic slightly favors controllable angles because of its right-click burst. What I mean is this: when you're defending, you get to choose which angles you're gonna live and die on, not your opponent. So you can easily post up on an unexpected angle and do this. But as an attacker, you don't always get to make those decisions, so the Classic isn't as viable. That doesn't mean the Classic isn't good as attackers, but if you want to fully utilize the gun, I'd say the Classic favors the defenders. The other aspect here is armor. The reason why I think it's critical to have armor as a defender on the pistol round is because you could easily be put in a 1v2 or 1v3 situation, as your opponents will likely play aggressively. In situations where you're being rushed down, one of the most important things you can do is delay and survive long enough for your rotations to come in. If you die before your rotations arrive, you're useless. And what helps you survive longer? Armor. To me, this feels like a no-brainer buy on defense. That doesn't mean I don't buy Ghost ever on defense, it just means that the Ghost isn't my go-to. For example, if I play C-Site on Haven as a defender, you better know I'm gonna grab a Ghost to deal with that C-long and the relatively long angle into Garage. Again, this advice is just the baseline for defenders. Tweak it to adjust for your playstyle. When you're attacking, the Ghost makes sense because it slightly favors a more aggressive playstyle. Because the Ghost does 105 damage on a headshot under 30 meters, a headshot plus a body shot will kill anyone on the pistol round. It allows you to make plays like this that would be a little bit more challenging on the Classic.
What a gamer!
Oh, also, here's another thing. Notice how this headshot right here goes through the box and tags the diffuser. The Ghost actually has a penetration rating of medium, whereas the Classic is low. While I don't feel like this really matters that much on the pistol round, it's hard to argue with results like this. When you're attacking on the pistol round, you typically want to clean up a site fast, and having that extra firepower stacked up against the defenders makes a difference. The only attacking disadvantage that the Ghost has compared to the Classic is it isn't as accurate when you're firing while moving. But Spin, how do you even know that? Well, for one, I ran around for about half an hour with both guns on the range and just tried to click heads. And second, when you enable movement arrow with the crosshair, you'll notice that the error on the Ghost is just a little bit more than the error on the Classic. Is it a big deal? I'd say no, but it's not exactly a tiny deal either. Generally, you're going to want to stay put when you're firing the Ghost at middle to long range engagements, juking and crouching as needed. The Classic gives you a little bit more leeway. Even at 10 meters, you can constantly stay on the move while firing. Pretty cool. Instead of ending it there, I want to touch on every map and talk about what I'd buy for every position. I really believe in giving concrete tips instead of just giving floaty advice, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, here we are on Ascent, and I'm gonna walk you through what I would do on Defender, and then we'll move on to Attacker. If you're playing A-Anchor, I say go with the Classic, stay with the Light Shield, because there's a lot of tight angles and a lot of close quarters engagements. If you're the Cat player, I'd actually consider grabbing a Ghost here on Defender, because you have this angle right here. If you can nab a few headshots when you're peeking into the link area here, you might be able to get some free, easy kills. Next up, we have the middle area here. Depends on how you want to play this. If you're gonna be peeking up into top mid here, or into link, then the Ghost might be good. If you're gonna be playing a little bit more passive and maybe rotating on the B to help him out, then you might just want to go with the Classic and Armor. For B Anchor here, I think you should go with the Classic and Light Armor because it's a lot of tight angles. You're not going to be able to utilize the range of the Ghost. And the thing is if you're the Anchor, again, the goal here is survivability, so you want to stay alive here in time for the rotates. Moving on to Attack, I say go for the Ghost in almost every single position. For example, when you're peeking on A here, if someone's Hell or if someone's Heaven, the Ghost is going to come really in handy to grab that quick double tap onto somebody's head, or maybe a tap onto someone's head and a body shot to secure the kill. Same thing with top mid. A lot of long range engagements that gives the Ghost an advantage. Not much changing here if you're playing Link. Again, you have another long range engagement, which gives the Ghost an advantage here. And if you're peeking middle here, you've got some medium to long range engagements, which again, the Ghost is going to outplay the Classic if you use it correctly. If you're playing B here, I think you can go either way. You can go with the Ghost or you can go with the Classic. There's a lot of really tight angles here that might favor the Classic. For example, if you think someone's going to be in this corner here and you can just run around it and get that quick right click headshot, that's going to be really easy kill to get. If you're playing A Anchor on Split, it's kind of up to you whether you want to go Ghost or Classic. Again, you're playing Anchor, so survivability is key, but if you're playing long range here and you feel really confident with the Ghost, you might find that this weapon will serve you better. It's really up to you. If you're playing Ramp here, then it depends on whether or not you're going to peek Ramp and whether or not you expect to get a kill on Ramp. If you're feeling pretty confident and you're going to peek, then I'd say go for the Ghost on Ramp. If you're not, then I would say definitely go with Classic and Armor to play. If you're the Vent player, I definitely say go Classic plus Armor because again, the most important thing is that you survive, especially on a map like Split. You need to hold that middle, so having that extra survivability is key. The same thing goes for the mailroom player / Heaven player. Definitely go with the Classic plus Armor because again, survivability here is key. I'd say same thing goes for the B Anchor here, unless you're just feeling really cocky and you expect to be peeking into Garage, but just keep in mind, if it's the pistol round, you can expect 2 or 3 people to be rushing you down if they're gonna come B, so even if you do get a pick onto Garage, you'll probably just get traded out with the Ghost, so I think you should go Classic, Light Shield, and maybe play a little bit more passive, only peek for information. All right, let's move on to attackers. When you're attacking on B, I say go for the Ghost. There's a lot of really long range angles that you're gonna wanna hold. You've got this here, you've got this one right here, you've got the angle into Heaven, and if you loop around here, you've got a pretty medium to long range angle into CT. Overall, I think the site really favors the Ghost when you're attacking. It's gonna be mostly the same here for playing middle. Obviously, if you do take control of middle and you move into vents or into mailroom, then the Classic might have a slight advantage because of its right click here, and you're gonna have a lot of close quarters engagements. But I think the most important thing is to take control of middle here, which I think the Ghost has a slight advantage when you're hitting these medium to long range engagements. For attacking A, I say stay with the Ghost because you have a pretty medium range engagement right here, super long range engagement right here, medium range. This is close, so this might favor the Classic, but this will probably be the only one. And then you'll have another medium range engagement right here, possibly. Even if you have some players push up into ramp here, again, you have some medium to long range engagements right here with the Ghost. Okay, now we're moving on to defense on bind, and for A site, I'd say stay with the Classic plus Armor unless you're gonna be playing back here in Heaven. Then maybe consider getting a Ghost because again, long range engagements will favor the Ghost. If you're defending on B long here, then I'd say maybe the Ghost might be a good option, especially if you plan on peeking, but if you don't plan on peeking, then I'd say go for the Classic plus Light Armor. If you're playing Hookah, I definitely say go with the Classic plus Light Armor. You can go with the Ghost if you want here, but I think these tight angles really favor the Classic a lot more. I think if you're playing A, you should always go with the Ghost in bathrooms, especially because you have a really easy wallbang right here that I think is very useful. And with the penetration factor of the Ghost, it's going to come in handy. Again, when you're peeking out here too, you're going to have a lot of medium to long range engagements, which again are going to favor the Ghost. Same thing with A short. When you peek out here, you're going to have so many possible angles where the enemy could be, and they're all going to be pretty medium to long range engagements. When you're pushing Hookah, it's up to you. The Classic might favor Hookah, but once you get out of Hookah, you have these medium and long range engagements. I think you guys are starting to figure this out by now, but again, for B long, definitely go with the Ghost here because you have a lot of long range shots that are going to favor, you guessed it, the Ghost. I feel like you guys are starting to get the gist of this by now, so I'm just going to run through these. If you're playing defense on A, I say go classic plus armor. Defense on B is going to be a bit of the same deal here. You have 3 sites instead of 2 sites to protect on Haven, so again, survivability is key. For the garage player, unless you plan on peeking out here, this is a great place to use the classic and to utilize that right click. If you're the C player, it's up to you. If you plan on peeking out on long, then the ghost might be your gun. If you plan on just playing anchor and really playing passive, then go with the classic and the light armor. For attacking on Haven, you pretty much always want to have the ghost because you're going to have some long range engagements that you have to deal with. The only time that you might not want the ghost is if you're playing a short here. But again, once you leave a short, you're still going to have these long to medium range engagements like here on Heaven, maybe into Hell, and on CT. Hey, I really hope this helped, and if it did, please consider liking and subscribing because it actually helps me out a lot. As always, I'm Spin. Thank you so much for watching. Peace and love, everybody.